For 14 years, I've been playing online poker full-time as my job. I've specialized at a game called Heads Up Sit and Goes, and for the last 10 years, those games have solely been erased by poker sites. They don't make enough money off of them to justify having them, and they simply remove them because they know all of the weaker players will just play other types of games. For those of you who haven't been watching my channel for a while, in October, I went to Berlin so that I could continue to play poker on a site from Europe. Global Poker left Canada in September, and it was a large part of my income. The European poker site helped offset that, in addition to battling regulars on iPoker, which is the site that I make the most money on. The site that I make the second most money on, Party Poker, just removed their Heads Up Sit and Go games that I play on Thursday. And so that means that my hourly is now dropping by more than $10 an hour. In the last 3 months, I had studied 30 hours in the month of March and got my poker hourly to $41 an hour. But that's going to change because I don't know how much of that hourly I can make up in other ways. On the one side, I can battle some of the weaker regulars on iPoker and potentially make a little bit more there. I can also potentially play hyper turbos on Party Poker because they still offer those. But while I can beat weaker players in those games, I'm not convinced that I have an edge against the better players. In Turbo Heads Up Sit and Goes, I'm confident that I can beat most of the winning players and all of the losing players. But in Hyper Turbos, it's a completely different decision tree, and it would take a bunch of studying for me to get competent at those games. Now, the irony is that I was already planning on June 1st to start studying Six Max for 30 hours a month, because I feel that in order to play poker for more than just this year, the Six Max cash games online never seem to go away, and there's also the opportunity to find softer cash games live if I'm good at Six Max. So it's kind of ironic that less than 10 days before I was already planning on learning a new format, Party Poker removes these turbo games, and I'm forced to make a pivot again. At the moment, I'm not really sure what my plan is going forward. I think for the time being, I have to try and play as much poker as I can, find out what kind of hourly I'm going to have currently, because I also expect that regulars that used to play on Party Poker are going to start playing on these other two sites because there's really only a couple places left. My plan is that I'm going to spend some amount of time studying Hyper Turbos and trying to get as good at those as I can over the next few months as well, because even when PokerStars got rid of turbos back in the day, 10 years ago, they kept the Hyper Turbos. So there's still a fairly stable format of poker. The problem is the swings. I've seen graphs of some of the top guys where they were up $10,000 and then they went on a $20,000 downswing and then, back up to $14,000 up, and that was at $100 games. But the point remains, like, the swings can be absolutely crazy at Hyper Turbos. I mean, they're already pretty big in turbos and reg speeds. So it's a real hair in the soup. The next few months are going to be tough because I was already thinking that $40 an hour barely puts me in an apartment, and was really hoping to push toward $50 an hour. On Party Poker, I was just starting to play some $50 games, and the games were really good and they ran decently, and that just disappears. So it's a lot of uncertainty here. I don't know if my hourly for next month is going to be 20, 25, 30. Can I make up a bunch of it? I'm not really sure. I'm going to be spending 30 hours a month studying 6 Max starting June 1st, and probably playing about 15 hours a month. And the hope is that I can at least make a few dollars an hour in 3 months, let's say, and eventually having that be my main game by a year from now. 6 months would be pretty good. 180 hours of studying. I think it's realistic with the improvements that I've been able to make. For example, I went from 29 an hour to 40 an hour with 1 month of really dedicated studying. The problem with Heads Up, and Hyper Turbos is I've seen sites, when sites get rid of these games, they just do it overnight. There's no notice. The site did an update and the games weren't there. That's kind of happened a few times. I've been on the losing end of these sites leaving half a dozen times now in the last 6-7 years. But this is probably the end of Heads Up Sit and Go Turbos, in my opinion, because really there's 2 sites that I know of that still offer them. And it's not like they're very profitable games. You make a lot of money per game. You can get big edges against recreational players, but the sites obviously know they can make more money if they can convince all these people to play other formats. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge over the next few weeks, is trying to see in June what kind of hourly I can get to, and see what the games are like as far as Hyper Turbos. I know on Party Poker they're pretty good. I haven't really played them anywhere else yet. I know some sites like PokerStars have cartels where you have to battle 2,000 games against winning players to get into each level. And I've also heard they start as low as $7, which is crazy. But I'm just going to look at this as another challenge, and I've been up for all the challenges I've had to face. And if this allows me to continue to have the runway to get my baseball YouTube channel off the ground and build some stability, then it'll be worth it. So I got another week left in Arc 2 here, this 90-day arc, and after that we're going to start Arc 3, and I'm going to make a video to kind of outline the criteria of what I'm looking to do in that next 90-day arc, June, July, August. And then we'll see from there. That's all I got for this week. I'll catch you guys next week.